Tonight, backing off in BC, the province pivots on decriminalizing illicit drugs.
We cannot afford to wait. We need to act now.
The Premier's new pledge after pushback.
It is targeting the most vulnerable in our culture.
A major change to a first-of-its-kind exemption.
It was pretty shocking.
Air Canada says sorry after stowing away a national chief's sacred symbol. Also, a return to royal duties. King Charles will restart public appearances. Plus, a baby whale's big breakout, how an orca calf found freedom.
This is just fantastic news.
And a sandwich surprise at the Oilers game.
Get 'em all out!
The tasty twist on T-shirt cannons. Fans flock to catch flying Donairs.
CTV National News with Heather Butts. Reporting tonight, Mirella Fernandez.
Good evening. BC is backtracking on a decision that allowed adults to have small amounts of drugs in their possession without breaking the law. The Premier says the pilot project has led to widespread drug use in public places like beaches, parks, and hospitals. CTV's Isabella Zaffarisi reports.
This amendment will make public drug use illegal in British Columbia.
The Premier making the announcement this afternoon that could be viewed as an about-face. The province will recriminalize drug use in public spaces. The reversal comes just over a year since decriminalization, a pilot project that allows the possession of 2.5 grams of certain drugs for personal use.
There's no question that criminalizing drug use costs all of us.
The government has asked Health Canada for an exemption to the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, seeking more power for police to crack down on public drug use.
Police do need the tools to address extraordinary circumstances where people are compromising public safety through their drug use.
But police will only arrest in exceptional circumstances. Decriminalization has become a wedge issue, the BC United hammering the NDP for weeks.
Today's announcement merely pushes this problem back onto police, without the ability to guide or compel people to meaningful interventions.
We have always said that for decriminalization to succeed, it has to be part of a broader strategy. Let me be perfectly clear. We do not wish to stigmatize people who struggle with drug addiction.
In the fall, the NDP introduced a bill to restrict public drug use. It passed but was challenged in court. The province fears it will be tied up for more than a year.
We need to act now.
The NDP have also come under fire for reports of drug use in hospitals, today announcing drugs will be banned in healthcare facilities.
We will not tolerate the safety of health professionals or patients in our hospitals being compromised.
One advocate questions the government's changes.
It is targeting the most vulnerable in our culture. It is also a walking back of the enthusiasm that we heard from government on when decriminalization was put in place.
The Premier wants the changes to come into effect as soon as possible, but that decision remains with Health Canada. Isabella Zaffarisi, CTV News, Vancouver.
A baby orca stranded for weeks in a BC lagoon is finally free. Experts had been trying to get the calf to swim out to sea after its mother died on a beach. Tonight, it is out in more open waters, ending a long and emotional ordeal for everyone involved. CTV's Yvonne Raymond is following that story tonight from Victoria.
The community in the remote area of Vancouver Island has been fondly watching the 2-year-old Biggs killer whale since her mom died on a sandbar in late March. The Ahadasat First Nation says a small group of witnesses was there for the surprising turn of events. The chief says they had spent the evening feeding Quisahayas. Then at high tide, around 2:30 a.m. local time, she swam out of the lagoon on a star-filled night by herself and down the inlet toward open ocean. Chief Simon John says events like these have a deeper meaning, and the timing of her departure will be thought about, talked about, and felt for generations to come.
Her behavior, her acoustics changed. She actually sped away from the boat and moved into this Esperanza Inlet and just really took off from the group, and just the high energy, just a great feeling knowing that we've given her a big chance.
For weeks, the world has been captivated by the attempts to reunite the orca with family. Fisheries and Oceans, local First Nations, researchers, and veterinarians remain dedicated to that critical task.
Not reconnecting at all with another group of killer whales would really decrease her long-term chances, I think. You know, if you did have hands on her and you're moving her as a team, and you would know exactly where to put her and when to put her. So that would have been the advantage there. This way, she's kind of out into water, but we don't know where she'll go after that, and we don't know whether she can reconnect with her pod. And I suppose the big X factor is, as of this morning anyway, I don't know whether anyone knows where her normal family group is.
A Habitat's chief says patrols are being stepped up on the Canadian West Coast today. Proactive measures are in place to ensure the orca doesn't come in contact with other humans or boats. And there's hope her calls are now heard by family. Yvonne Raymond, CTV News, Victoria.
Dangerous tornadoes tore through the American Midwest, and there are more on the way. Nebraska was the worst hit, where at least a dozen twisters sent debris flying in the air and flattened everything in their path.
It just took everything in about 5-10 minutes and it's gone.
Police and firefighters are now going door to door to rescue people who are trapped.
Is that the real tornado?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Officials warn of strong winds and hail for more states tomorrow. There are terrifying moments for passengers on board a Boeing plane when its emergency slide fell off midair.
The floor started rattling.
We have to turn our plane around because something is falling off. That's just a scary thing to hear.
The Delta flight took off from New York and was on its way to Los Angeles with 183 people on board. But it had to turn around and go back to John F. Kennedy Airport this morning.
I was going to pick up a slight vibration and some banging noise from that right wing slide.
The airline has removed the Boeing 767 jet from service. The slide that came apart has yet to be found. Air Canada is apologizing after a sacred symbol was taken from the National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations and put in the cargo hold. Cindy Woodhouse-Niepenack says it was humiliating and is calling for change. Here's CTV's Sarah Plowman.
When the AFN National Chief flies, her headdress is kept close, secure in a case placed above seats or under her chair. But on an Air Canada flight this week, Cindy Woodhouse-Niepenack says staff took her headdress from her.
I had it under the seat in front of me, and they just said, doesn't fit there, and you can't believe what's happening. It never happened to me before.
Stunned, she feared if she said anything, she'd be kicked off the plane.
They wanted to wrap it in garbage bags and put it under the belly of the plane.
Before that happened, she grabbed her headdress and held it on her lap. Her case was sent below. The scene, she says, was humiliating.
All these people in the plane, like a big movie of people watching you, and I want to thank Canadians that tried to help.
Air Canada has apologized and says it understands the importance of accommodating customers with items and symbols of sacred cultural significance. And in the past, chiefs have been able to travel while transporting their headdresses in the cabin. They say they'll be reviewing their policies as a result of this regrettable incident.
Obviously, it's unacceptable, an unfortunate situation that I hope is going to lead to a bit of learning, not just by Air Canada, but a lot of different institutions.
First Nations leaders across the country who also travel with their headdresses believe airlines need to do better.
I think they need to, of course, have cultural sensitivity training to all of their senior staff and, of course, their new staff.
Woodhouse-Niepenack says her headdress was given to her in ceremony, and she needs to respect it.
And it was given to me directly to take care of it, and I've been given strict instructions to take care of it in a good way. And not for people to be handling it or throwing it around at the belly of a plane where, what if it gets wrecked?
Woodhouse-Niepenack has spoken on the phone with the president of Air Canada. She wants the company to have an advisory circle, First Nations representation on its board, and focus on protocols dealing with First Nations sacred items. Marilla.
Sarah, thank you. The complaints against Canadian Airlines are piling up. In fact, they're at a record high, and that means long wait times for responses. As CTV's Annie Berger-Oliver reports, some passengers say they'd rather go another route to find resolution.
The number of air passenger complaints is soaring to new heights as the backlog for decisions from the Canadian Transportation Agency hits a record high.
The size of the backlog depends not only on the number of cases we close, but also on the number of complaints being submitted. And the number of complaints being submitted continues to be very high.
Last year, a record 43,000 complaints were filed by passengers seeking refunds or compensations through the CTA, the body tasked with settling disputes. That pushed the backlog to a high of 71,000 complaints.
I'm frustrated, but I'm really sad.
Marco Katz-Montiel filed a complaint in 2022 after he was stranded at Toronto Pearson. He still hasn't heard back and now avoids Canadian Airlines when possible.
But I know if there's a problem, I won't be able to, the Canadian government will do nothing for me. If I have a problem with KLM, I can go to the European Union and they enforce regulations.
Passenger advocates call the European model the gold standard, saying it's simpler than Canada's system and puts a greater onus on airlines to pay up.
We recommend passengers to avoid dealing with the Canadian Transportation Agency because of concerns about its impartiality and independence.
The CTA says it is independent and with the help of recent regulatory changes is processing cases faster than ever before. Still, many air travelers say they'd rather turn to small claims court where decisions come faster.
It's a very, very different process. At least you hear the conversation, of the defendant.
The CTA says clearing the backlog is a priority, with a record of more than 12,500 complaints resolved since the end of September. Still, the agency, Morella, can't say when the backlog will be eliminated.
All right, Annie. Turning now to a troubling new health trend. More Canadian women under the age of 50 are getting breast cancer.
When we look specifically at the younger women, there's a 45% increase in the incidence in the women in their 20s.
A new study compared breast cancer rates between 1984 to 1988 and 2015 to 2019. For women in their 30s, there has been a 12.5% increase. For women in their 40s, researchers noted an increase of just over 9%. King Charles is being treated for cancer, but it's never been revealed what type. The palace today did say he's well enough to return to public duties next week. CTV's Heather Wright has that update.
Calling it a milestone, Buckingham Palace says King Charles will be back at public events next week, nearly 3 months after revealing he is fighting cancer. The palace says their majesties remain deeply grateful for the many kindnesses and good wishes they have received from around the world throughout the joys and challenges of the past year. This year has been a difficult one for the royal family. Charles' cancer diagnosis was announced in February, detected in tests after he had a corrective procedure for an enlarged prostate. In January, the Princess of Wales underwent abdominal surgery, and after weeks of speculation, she announced that she too is being treated for cancer.
This is a really positive update from the palace. And I remember the last time we had an update on a Friday from the royal family, it was, of course, the Princess of Wales talking about heart cancer diagnosis, but this is something completely different.
And news that may give some hope to others battling the disease.
Hopefully for a lot of people, it will give them huge confidence that they also can recover well from a cancer diagnosis and the treatment that comes with it.
While King Charles was able to conduct official state business while receiving treatment, most public engagements were postponed. The palace released this new photo of the King and Queen today, and while they have not revealed what kind of cancer the King is being treated for or how much longer those treatments will last, they say doctors are pleased with his progress so far.
I think we have to read a little bit between the lines and see that the palace is essentially saying things are going well enough that he can return. And I think he'll probably take on more and more as time goes on.
The King's first public engagement in months will be on Tuesday. He and the Queen will visit a cancer treatment center where they will visit with doctors and patients. Morella.
Heather Wright in Toronto. Coming up.
There's no case here. There's no case whatsoever. It's a disgrace.
A Trump insider testifies at the hush money trial. Plus, the perfect giveaway wrapped with love. A historic church in Nova Scotia is completely destroyed by fire. Emergency crews were called to the Bridgetown Baptist Church just before 8 in the morning. Nearly a dozen fire departments responded trying to extinguish the flames. Work was being done inside the 130-year-old structure, but the cause of the fire is unknown. No injuries are reported. A 14-year-old girl and boy are facing adult penalties if found guilty of murder.
I am directed to seek an adult sentence, and if not, explain to the judge why. So under the current case law, I'm required to discuss that with the judge.
The teens cannot be identified. They made their first court appearance in Halifax. Both are charged with second-degree murder in the stabbing death of a 16-year-old who was found badly injured at a shopping mall on Monday. The victim later died at hospital. At the criminal trial for Donald Trump, David Pecker was back on the stand. The former tabloid publisher was cross-examined by the defense, questioned about that catch-and-kill scheme used to protect the former president. CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Melvin reports.
David Pecker, a key witness, stood by his testimony as Donald Trump's lawyers tried to poke holes in his story, suggesting the catch-and-kill scheme to buy and bury scandalous stories was just standard practice at the National Enquirer, nothing unique, and done hundreds of times for celebrities like Tiger Woods and Mark Wahlberg. But the tabloid publisher insisted helping Trump was different. They were friends. He saw Trump as a mentor, testifying he tore down Trump's rivals and silenced any revelations that could damage candidate Trump. Allegations of a Trump love child, payoffs to a Playboy model Karen McDougal, who claimed a year-long affair with Trump, and Pecker alerted Trump and his fixer Michael Cohen to quash the Stormy Daniels story, who threatened to go public weeks before the 2016 election. Pecker told the jury he was even invited to the White House, where Trump thanked him for his help in burying bad stories. I know what the truth is, Pecker said, insisting he did this to help a presidential candidate.
Mr. Trump will meet you.
Trump's longtime assistant testified she was in control of Trump's contact list. Karen McDougal and a woman called Stormy was on their computer system. She recalled seeing the adult film star at Trump Tower in 2016. The office chatter was that Stormy Daniels might be a potential contestant on Trump's reality show, The Apprentice. After weeks of testimony, Trump is frustrated, complaining the court is freezing and blasting the case against him.
I just want to thank everybody for being here. I know you have to suffer through this like everybody else. Nothing has come. This is a case that should have never been brought.
Trump, who didn't debate any of his Republican rivals, says he'll take up Joe Biden's challenge to debate him anywhere, anytime, any place, says Trump, suggesting they could even do it at the courthouse. Morella?
Interesting, Joy. Thanks for that. We heard about election interference from the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. He says the U.S. has seen evidence of Chinese attempts to influence and arguably interfere with the upcoming presidential election.
We want to make sure that that's cut off as quickly as possible.
Blinken's allegations come on the heels of a 3-day trip to China, where he met with high-ranking officials and President Xi Jinping. Beijing has repeatedly says it does not interfere in American elections. Straight ahead.
There's still so much love between us, and tenderness, and respect.
Sophie Gregoire Trudeau opens up on navigating life after separation. Sophie Gregoire Trudeau is speaking about life after separating from the Prime Minister.
There's still so much love between us, and tenderness, and respect. But we're taught in a society where marriage is success and divorce is failure, that there's nothing in between.
Gregoire Trudeau's new memoir recounts a number of personal stories about mental health and empowerment. The NFL is taking a major step to try and improve player safety and reduce head injuries. The league says it will allow players to wear Guardian caps starting this year. The soft shell layer goes on top of a regular helmet and helps minimize the impact of hits to the head. Many players have already started using them in practice. Greece has officially handed over the Olympic flame to the team from Paris. A ceremony was held in Athens today at the historic Marble Stadium, where the first modern games took place in 1896. Tomorrow, the torch will begin a 12-day voyage to France by ship, then continue through the country, ending up in Paris for the opening ceremony on July 26th. After the break, forget hot dogs.
The reaction has been so positive for us, and it's great to see the fans having fun like we do as we kind of came up with this idea.
Oilers fans scored something savory, just sitting in their seats. At the NHL playoff game tonight in Edmonton, fans had to stay alert and be on the watch for flying food. Usually, the cannon shoots out T-shirts to the crowd. Tonight, it dispatched Donairs. CTV's Jeremy Thompson on the decision to fire off packed pitas.
McDavid surveys, gets it low to Draisaitl. Net front score!
As if a 4-0 lead in Game 1 wasn't good enough, what was announced during the next TV timeout nearly blew the roof off of Rogers Place.
Everyone is like, no, they can't be serious, can they?
The Oilers' ice crew appeared in the aisles, their T-shirt guns loaded with some unusual ammo.
And it was tightly packed in this foam cylinder, and then finally got to the Donair itself, and lo and behold, it was pretty fresh, still a little bit warm.
Get 'em all out! For Game 2, even fans outside in the moss pit got in on it, finding new meaning in the word Donair.
The reaction has been so positive for us, and it's great to see the fans having fun like we do as we kind of came up with this idea.
The Donairs are made in-house about 10 minutes before launch. 60 per game are sent flying with all the proper Edmonton ingredients: spiced meat, tomato, onion, sweet sauce, and yes, lettuce.
These Donairs aren't jumbo, they're not super, and they're a little smaller than regular size as well, but they do fit perfectly into a T-shirt cannon, and they're the perfect size for pumping into the crowd.
You may be asking, isn't that dangerous? After all, Maud Flanders met her end thanks to a T-shirt gun.
Fire!
Ooh, a bobby pin!
Not to worry, these Donairs come encased in a soft thermal delivery device after a warning to the crowd.
You might say warn, you might say prepare, but yeah, we're making sure that no one's gonna take a Donair off the dome unintentionally.
The biggest concern for fans like Gord McQueen is the Donair's impact on the game. Just one bite for Gord, and the Kings scored.
Sure enough, after like 3 or 4 more bites, the Kings scored again. So I'm like, done. I'm wrapping this thing up. I'm proclaiming to those around me, I am not eating this cursed Donair anymore.
That goal was called back for going in off a hand, so McQueen got to finish his gift from the sky guilt-free. Jeremy Thompson, CTV News, Edmonton.
That's a wrap on the day. Thanks for sharing your time. For all of us here at CTV National News, good night. I'll see you again tomorrow.